You're listening to the Marketing Happy Hour podcast, where we discuss career and industry insights with our peers in marketing.
We're here to talk about it all, like the ups and downs of working in social media,
how to build authentic relationships in the influencer and PR space,
managing a 9-to-5 and a side hustle at the same time,
how to be productive in your life and career without losing your sanity, and more.
Ultimately, we're here to build a community with you because we're all trying to navigate the world of marketing together.
Are you ready? Grab your favorite drink and join your hosts, Cassie and Erica, for this week's episode.
Howard, we are so stoked to have you on Marketing Happy Hour. We don't dive into theme parks too often, but when we do, I get super excited. That is a space, if you know me, I love very much. But we have to welcome you on the show by asking you first, how are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm super excited. I know you guys, I believe, are both really, really big theme park people. So I'm excited to kind of talk to people that share those same interests.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get into all of that and just the behind the scenes. It's always such an interesting space. It's very different. You know, we talk a lot about experiential and things like that, which in a way, a theme park is an experiential experience, I should say. So it'll be cool to kind of hear the behind the scenes of that. But first, we have to ask, what has been in your glass recently? What do you have?
Of course. I'm so excited that I finally get that answer to me because I've been listening to all of your past podcasts. I remember the podcast that you guys did with someone from Olipop. So I figured I would kind of channel that. So I've been drinking a lot of Olipop recently, and today we're doing the Olipop cream soda.
Ooh,
If
I
you
actually
haven't
haven't
tried,
tried that.
So good.
missing out.
So good.
It's
Oh my gosh.
really good.
It's so good. One of my favorites of theirs, for sure.
That is
That's
awesome.
awesome.
What about you, Cass? What's in your glass?
No surprise. I have a Celsius this morning. So finishing up my daily caffeine here. And then I have a water as well. What about you, Erica?
Always gotta be hydrated.
Yes.
I just picked up. I think this is a limited edition. Everyone knows who listens to the show that I love Brew Doctor kombucha, but they came out with a pink lemonade flavor, and it's very good.
delicious.
So highly recommend that. Well, we want to dive into the conversation too. So, Howard, could you just walk us through your career journey thus far and how you kind of landed in your content creation role at Busch Gardens?
Sure. So I went to college at the University of Florida in Gainesville, and I originally started off as a music education major going in, just because it was always a passion of mine to want to become a teacher, as well as combine that with music. But then throughout kind of my college career, I started to dive a lot more into photography and videography. So halfway in between, I decided to switch to advertising because I think at the time I started to watch a lot of Mad Men, and just the ad agency lifestyle seemed really interesting to me, and hopefully I could combine those two options. So yeah, throughout those years, I started to take a lot more photo and video gigs, a lot more freelancing, a lot of internships related to that. And then by the time that I finally graduated, I decided I don't know if ad agency is personally right for me. It's something that I wanted to do. I really wanted to see if I could succeed with just doing photo and video. So I moved down here in Tampa, and then I decided to just see, like, if I can make it in a year, then I'll do this. And if not, maybe I'll go back to school. Maybe I'll do something else. So a lot of emails, a lot of cold calls, a lot of thankful connections that I made, and I got to freelance with a lot of amazing businesses here in the Tampa Bay area. But my first real content creation gig was with a company here called Stuff to Do in Tampa Bay. And they are essentially like a social content-based event company who share all the best things that are happening in the Tampa Bay area. And that was phenomenal. I stayed with there for about 3 to 4 years, and I really got to experience not only Tampa in general, but I got to work with so many different businesses, and every business has its own different needs, like anywhere from an ice cream shop to a winery to events, like everything in between, which was really, really fun. Got to meet a lot of new people. Uh, but then I finally saw an application for Busch Gardens, and they wanted kind of a content creator role. And that to me seemed like the perfect fit, just because uh, I was I was raised in Leesburg, Florida, which is about like an hour away from Orlando, very small city. But I always grew up going to all the theme parks in the area. My parents always would take us. So I know you guys know, like there's something just amazing about a theme park, no matter where it is, what it is. Once you go through the opening gates, you almost feel like a kid. It's like you're on vacation. So that combined with I have a immense love for animals. Ever since I was young, my we never had cable, so my parents would buy these National Geographic CDs that all had different animals that were talked about. So I was this 10-year-old kid knowing everything that you could know about tigers and alligators and whatever in between. So that just grew throughout the years, and now, yeah, I that just seemed like the perfect fit for me. So something must have gone wrong with their hiring department because they hired me, and now we're 2 years in, and I couldn't imagine myself anywhere else.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. And it's so fun to see like some of those things come back from your childhood and you're like, oh my gosh, all along it was leading me here. And it's so fun to like hear that from you and then also hear that from like other guests. I feel like that's such a common experience and it's so fun to like look back on your journey and see how that all unfolded. So thank you for sharing that. But we want to ask too, being that Busch Gardens is kind of that in-person experience like you referred to, you walk in and you're instantly transported and you might not be engaging with the social media while you're in the parks. How do you kind of use that social media content that you're creating to engage with your guests between visits? And like, what does that strategy for engagement look like? I mean, we talked to someone on the, I think, another theme parks team, and they were talking about how they kind of like try to transport that experience from the parks and like translate it into the social content. So I would love to hear how you're doing that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Bringing the park, if you're not here, bringing the park into your living room on your phone, that's a wonderful point. I almost feel like we kind of want to create a sense of FOMO, of basically like if you have never been to Busch Gardens, we want to make it feel like you need to go to Busch Gardens tomorrow. Or if you've been 900 times in the past month, we want to give you the feeling of coming back. And through we have an amazing social and content team, and our strategy is basically sharing everything that we have at Busch Gardens, which is a lot. So if you love animals, if you love theme parks, if you love rides, if you love entertainment, if you love food, there's literally something for everyone happening at Busch Gardens. So our job is to kind of show off everything that we have. So either if you don't know, now you know. And furthermore, if you've been here a lot, like our amazing past members, it's more about educating them a little bit more about the park that they have come so much to and they love, hopefully. So that elephant that they've passed 100 different times, hopefully we can put out content that shares a little bit more about our amazing elephant herd and the team that takes care of them. So now the next time they come, they know that elephant's name is Carnauty, and Carnauty can drink like 40 to 50 gallons of water a day, which is crazy to think about. But just content that can educate and inform, I think that kind of sticks true to new guests, but also our reoccurring ones.
Yeah, well, speaking of that too, how do you kind of balance that that kind of content you're developing for new visitors versus returning fans? You mentioned kind of going a little bit deeper on the story and the details of the elephants, but what else are you kind of keeping in mind, and how do you balance both of those, just depending on who you're speaking to?
Sure. I mean, it's all just about showcasing the park, and we post so often that we want to still share the information because the information is relevant and we think it's very important to show our audience, but it's also about changing the tactics of how we share it. So that same more informative video that is more about facts about, let's say, our elephants or our tigers might go on Facebook for that audience. But then on TikTok, we have something completely different, much shorter, a little bit more aimed to our younger audience. So our younger audience is hopefully taking in, my hope is that if they can take one fun fact that they know, and I see a comment that says like, "Oh, I never knew that about our orangutans," then that's all that I want. So just kind of informing. Yeah, I think just a lot of showcasing the park. Um, we do a lot of amazing content with our roller coasters, obviously our animals and our events. So hopefully that speaks to people that have never experienced it. A lot of people come to our park strictly for the rides, and they never know that we have animals. So that is really fun to just share every once in a while. Like, hey, we are a nationally accredited zoo. We have such a wide variety of amazing animals. Um, so you really come in, you experience a whole package of a theme park, which is hopefully something that we can put out through our content.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with all of these things going on all the time, I mean, you all just opened a new attraction at the park. There's an event called Howl-O-Scream going on right now. There's a lot happening at all times. As with any other business, someone listening could say the same thing. There's campaigns happening, there's new product releases, new services, whatever. And I think one challenge that a lot of organizations have is maintaining communication across departments. How do we ensure that our message going out is the same as PR, but also putting our own spin on it for social versus these other platforms? How are you just staying organized internally with that and just ensuring communication across the board is seamless and just intertwined essentially?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest to start off small, our social and content team, um, our social media manager, her name is Shania, and she is phenomenal. She has been doing this for about 2.5 years now, and she is great at just kind of organizing everything. She has to post on all these different platforms, so keeping the message the same, but also relevant to each platform, just because each platform is different, and keeping us on schedule of what we need to talk about, what haven't we talked about, what we need to talk about more, just things like that. And then the other content producer on our team, Jesse, he's been here a little longer, so about 10-ish years. So him having that the expertise and the history with the park is invaluable to us, just because we are on the newer side of things. So just us in general, it's been great to it's been really easy to kind of keep things organized and fresh, just to make sure our content is always going out and it's the right content. But expanding upon that, just the whole marketing office itself, we all share an office. It's a really easy answer of, we're right next door to promotions, we're right next door to PR. So if we ever have a question, we just stand up, walk over, ask the question, and we get our answer, just as easy as that. So it's a lot of office visits. It's a lot of making sure we're all putting off the same message, but we also have a lot of weekly meetings to talk about everything coming up, all the announcements, all the things. So it makes sure that all of marketing, including social, including PR, we're all kind of operating as a complete singular unit.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a case for in-person work, even if it's not all the time. Just like having that face-to-face, that kind of like high-touch interaction is really good. And that's kind of hard to do in a remote environment. And I know a lot of our listeners work remotely, but a tip there would just be to like hop on a call if there's something going on and like brainstorm, or just like being really open on, I don't know if people's organizations use like Slack or like Microsoft Teams, and just like being open to having conversations about what's going on is always going to be helpful when it comes to organization, and just like making sure that everybody's on the same page with everything that's going out from your organization. And so I love that you touched on that. One thing too I wanted to ask, and it's not in the questions that we prepped you with, so sorry,
Okay.
but I just want to hear a little insight on some of your like favorite pieces of content that you've been able to create at the parks.
Sure. So there is a series on TikTok actually that we did, basically answering our audience's questions, and they're so fun. A lot of people just ask random questions. Like, we have this amazing ice show that we have at the park that's been going on for years and years. Amazing performers, amazing stage crew. And a lot of people wonder, like, one of the most simple questions is that ice real? That's one of the questions that we get the most. And we took one of our amazing ice skaters, her name is Juliana, and we just simply proved, like, yes, it is real. We have the whole system. It is real real ice, and just things like that. And we covered everything from Easter eggs throughout the park, our oldest animals, what an elephant's diet is, and we kind of transformed that also over back to Instagram, of just kind of sharing things about the park that maybe people didn't know. And hopefully, now that they kind of see a behind the scenes look of it, that they can develop more of an appreciation for the park.
Oh, that's so good. And I love how you mentioned too about just you got that question all the time about the ice. And that's such a powerful lesson to us as marketers of keeping note of these common questions that we receive, whether it's the customer service teams are receiving them and creating some sort of alignment or communication between those teams so that social can create content around that stuff and just educate the audience. But that's such a good way too, just for content idea generation. I think a lot of times us as content creators, sometimes we hit a wall or we run out of ideas to create. So just going back to simply what are the common questions that people are asking and just starting there. I want to ask you a little bit about just the conservation efforts at Busch Gardens Tampa Bay. You know, you all do quite a bit of work around that just as a whole. How do you feel just personally that kind of motivates you as a professional, you know, having this cause that you are helping to support and to create content on? Just curious from a personal level how that's affected you.
It's amazing. Like I said at the beginning, like watching these nature documentaries about these animals, and now I get to play a small part in educating, hopefully, the people that were my age when I was watching these, and educating our audience about them. I honestly, I can't speak to it as much because I just like to showcase them, but the real people behind it are our zoo team and our keepers. And if you ever get the chance to come to the park and do a tour with any of our animals, you'll realize that once you hear our zoo team and our zookeepers talk about these animals, you understand the passion. It's like they live and breathe for these animals. They love them. I've seen so many people that have their animals as their backgrounds on their phone just because they see them every single day, day in, day out, and they're taking such amazing care of them. So it's kind of like anytime I get an idea to go and film a video with them, it's like 90% for the audience, 10% for me, just because hearing their passion, hearing their excitement when they get to talk about the animals that they care for, it's so infectious. And as content creators, if the subject is excited, that makes you so much more excited. And that's what makes animal videos so fun and interesting to do, is that you're sharing their love and their passion, and it's great. It's one of my favorite categories of videos that I've ever done.
That's so awesome. You're making me want to work there. I'm like, I wish every day that I was like surrounded by people who were so passionate about animals and just like working with animals. It's so great. Another thing that Cassie touched on a little bit earlier are events like Howl-O-Scream. We are releasing this during the spooky season of the year, so would love to hear a little behind the scenes look at what that preparation process looks like for such an event from, you know, a content perspective. How far in advance are you planning content out, and then how does that play out throughout the time frame of the event?
I mean, Howl-O-Scream just started last weekend, and we're already talking about stuff for next year. I don't think it ever really stops. It just kind of keeps going and going, and I feel like Halloween has grown bigger and bigger and bigger every single year. So in the easiest term, it never really stops. We're talking about things that, following the start of Howl-O-Scream, what we wanted to do really, really well that we did, that we can kind of replicate for next year, and then maybe things that we didn't do as well that we can kind of improve on for next year. The real kind of true planning starts anywhere from like 6 months or more out, and that's where we start to really, really dive into more of the content. we work incredibly closely with our entertainment team, and they are such a phenomenal team. They do such amazing work putting together events, not only Howl-O-Scream, but everything in between. So working really closely with them to talk about everything that's new coming, everything that they want to showcase, and then we bring all that information back to our content team, and we talk about how we want to showcase all of those things, whether it's little teases on Instagram, whether it's a live video talking about like an upcoming house, and just over the course of when we start to the beginning of the event, just consistently building that hype and that anticipation for opening day. It's so fun. I love this time. It's just, there's so much content to go out with, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then you also have a chance to kind of like connect with those fans in person who love that event and come back year to year, and you can kind of see like how the fruits of the social posts that you post are, generating that excitement year over year, and I love seeing that. Yeah. Question for you, how do you think influencers play a part in amplifying event promotions, and how do you kind of engage those content creators, influencers to capture the best content that aligns with the park's vision for the event?
Sure. I think one of the easiest things is that first of all, we have an amazing array, a vast array of influencers that come to our park, but also that we work with. And social content, but also our PR department, we have such a great relationship with our influencers that we're kind of able to see who is best suited for which event and invite them out for those kind of specific events. So not every event is for everyone. Obviously, Howl-O-Scream is geared more towards a mature audience. So we invite a certain select amount of influencers to those events. But influencers, I think, are just fantastic because they tell their own story through the park. Like we on the social content team, we have a specific way of showing content, but they have their own amazing way. And like we said before, like there's so many different categories of influencers, whether it's people that love animals, that are really into food, that strictly really, really appreciate Howl-O-Scream. So it's fun to see our events in our park through their eyes and how they share the content. And even if we invite 50 influencers to one event, every single piece of content is different, and they share that to their audience. And hopefully just through everybody, our audience is hopefully getting a really, really nice, complete image of the park and of our events.
Yeah, I had a few friends who were at your media night and heard great things about it, and saw a number of different posts just from influencers, one specifically of someone who had a camera kind of strapped to their upper body showing their POV walking through some of the houses. And that's just such a fun way for them to kind of put their own spin, again, kind of share their personal experience of that. So I think, again, that's just encouragement for other social teams out there, is how can you allow them to kind of create their own experience with your product or service or whatever it is, and tell their own story through their own eyes, which is such a good idea. So I love that. I got to know too, as a content creator, there's so many different social media platform updates and new trends and just everything happening all the time. I always say we as marketers, I feel like, have whiplash on a regular basis with all this stuff happening. So how do you just stay on top of trends and things occurring in that space personally, to ensure that the content you're creating just remains fresh and engaging for your audience, and overall just on top of what's happening in the world?
Oof. I mean, staying on top of trends is almost like a myth at this point, like, because you just never know. You wake up tomorrow and Facebook is completely different, Instagram is completely different. You really never know. I think on our side of things, we just do our best to catch a trend or something on the up, and we try and figure out, can we use that trend to our benefit? Does it fit our brand image and kind of the voice that we want to put out from our channels? And if not, that's okay. But I think that's kind of the way that we are able to kind of catch these early. And our whole team, we're constantly sharing stuff about, oh, this brand did something really cool. How can we kind of change that and make it our own, put our own spin on it? We're constantly doing that. We have so many on every single channel. We have all these different threads of just sending these ideas. But I think a lot of it is just doing what's right for your brand, but also not being scared to fail. You're going to fail. Not every trend is going to work out for you, especially like on TikTok. You never know what's going to go and be popular. I have tried to figure out TikTok. I haven't quite yet, and I've been on it for, I don't know, 8 years now. It's crazy. But I think our team does a really great job, and our leadership over us does a really good job of letting us kind of try and just try trends and do our best. And if it fails, that's okay. No big deal. We know for future, and we kind of work on that for future. And then sometimes it really hits, and then that's great. And yeah, just taking all that information. Hopefully that's how we can kind of stay as current as possible.
Yeah, such great encouragement too of not being afraid to fail. I think that's something that we can all kind of take into our individual roles and run with, because that's something we hear a lot on the show is like being a consumer first, and knowing the trends just because you're always on the platform and like communicating with your team like, hey, this is so fun, like should we do this? That is like a really good way to stay on top of trends and things like that. But obviously, like you said, it's not always going to work for your brand. So not being afraid to just take risks and do some fun little things when the time is right and it matches your brand is always a good strategy there. Well, Howard, this is awesome. I love chatting with you, and we have to ask you the question that we ask all of our guests. We end the episode with, it's one of our favorites, and that is just, what do you know now that you wish you knew a little earlier in your career?
I think one of the biggest lessons now in this current stage of my career, I wish I would have. I found photo and video to be a true passion of mine, and that started really early. But at that time, I was kind of doing it for fun, just for like family gatherings and friends. I was just kind of joking around with it. I wasn't really taking it seriously. But I think what I've come to realize throughout just meeting so many people is that it's really never too late to start something that you're passionate about. I wish I would have started a little earlier. Who knows where I would be, but I'm glad everything worked out. But I think just don't be scared to do what really, really excites you. Even if it's not your current job, you can do things like, if you want to be a graphic designer, if you want to be an influencer, if you want to be a photographer, a videographer, if you want to be a theme park influencer, like you can do all these things, make the time. And if you really love it and you're really passionate about it, I think it'll show. One of the biggest lessons is our social media manager, Shania. She loves reading books, loves books, and she just started her restarted her TikTok channel, and it's all about book talk. And she does such an amazing job, and you can, when you talk to her about it, you can kind of feel the passion that she's kind of realizing, and she's been doing so well. Small Talk with Shania, if you ever want to follow her. But it's people like that. It's things like that. It's not too late. It's never too late. Start something that you're passionate about and really go with it.
Oh, such good advice, and directly ties into an event we had recently in New York, literally just talking about that. I feel like we get that question all the time of, how do I break into the marketing space, or how do I, balance kind of a passion with my 9 to 5? And it's just, you can make it work, and just getting started and doing it on the side, like you mentioned. I think just going for it and not being afraid to kind of fail, tying back into one of the points you made about content, not being afraid to try it. If it doesn't work out, you can always pivot from there. But such great advice, Howard. Thank you so much. As we close out too, we have to know just how can we stay in touch with you personally, but also Busch Gardens? How do we learn more? How do we follow you all on social media?
Of course. I am mostly on Instagram at Howard Blank Lynn, like the word blank. I thought it was clever. I don't have a middle name, so that was like a middle school thing. But also, yeah, follow Busch Gardens on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those platforms that we normally say. just because I'm really proud of our team and the content that we're putting out, and hopefully you guys enjoy it as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on here, sharing the theme park love, not only, but also just sharing your story, your insights and expertise. And we can't wait to just stay in touch with you and see what you continue to work on at the brand and beyond. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Marketing Happy Hour podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you want more of Marketing Happy Hour but don't know where to start, we invite you to download our free Marketing Happy Hour starter kit at marketinghappyhr.com/starter-kit. This interactive magazine-style PDF walks through who we are, includes helpful resources like a marketing term glossary and the printable daily planner sheet that we actually use ourselves, and contains clickable links to our episode recommendations by subject area. Not to mention all the fun extras like a quiz, the link to our Marketing Happy Hour Insiders Facebook group, a word search, a playlist, a goal-setting guide, content inspo by month, and more. It's our hope that you'll dive into this resource and walk away more confident in your career journey with a group of industry pals that you can lean on for advice and support. Snag your free starter kit today at marketinghappyhr.com/starter-kit for all of the info you need to become a Marketing Happy Hour insider.